like white men who teach there, which is like whatever.
Very
we won't
sweet,
get into
very
that.
sweet white men.
Yes,
some of them.
No. They're some of them are great people. I have no qualms. Like, but definitely as like a younger woman, girl, like it was very intimidating, and they really had no reason to like welcome me in or talk to me because I'm just like a kid, I guess. And so that was very isolating in that way. And I was like, oh, I don't really like this place, but I really like surfing and surf instructing. Like I love teaching people. That happened. I went to college. I was like, I don't know if I'm returning. Go back the next year. I'm like, okay, I like this more. But this is around the time that I like start questioning other things about gender and whatnot. And so at the end of that year, great year, no qualms. After like the season ended, I cut off all of my hair. So I presented like very femininely up until that point. And like, that's how people saw me. And like, that's all that the people locals knew me as. I did that and was like, I can never return to locals because like within that culture and just like surf culture, like there's no, like, I don't see anyone like me. And like, I don't feel comfortably being in a place like that. Or I didn't, at least. I went back for third year and it was fine. But because of that, that got me thinking like, I want to start potentially my own surf school, but not really, but like some space where I can offer like just a safe space for, well, originally it was like women and people identify as women, etc., and queer people. But that has since then grown into something larger. But yeah, I just basically like thought about that for a full year or two, was like bringing it up with my friend, and we were like, oh, we can make this like cool space. Like maybe we'll have like a pop-up shop, and like there'll be like also like, I guess sort of like locals, like the cafe, but we're like, okay, like an art collective space and like queer people and like mainly women and like all this. And we actually like really got into this, and like we're looking at numbers and like talking to my dad, who like knows a lot about business and stuff, about like how we could go about like making this company or like business. And then right around then COVID hit. And so everything like sort of, she went on to do her own thing. I stayed in New York. And then I worked at locals again. And I didn't really expect to. I had no plans to. But they asked me back and I went. And surprisingly, I was welcomed by everyone, even though like I presented so differently. I think I never got like any comments on my hair, like how I presented. It was more like oh, nice haircut. And that was like pretty much a positive experience for me. I think like that's when I really started like loving the surf community in a different way, because I was like, they don't really, which is another thing that has come up, but like they don't really see like who I am, and it's more just like about my surfing and like that community, which I think also has its problems. But yeah, so we had this whole year or whole summer, but still in the back of my mind, I like had this like queer thing going on, but was like, oh, I can't start like a competitive school with locals, whatever. And around then was when I think all the protests started happening. It was like Pride Month. We were doing like the paddle outs. And actually that's when I met Johnny for the first time. And I don't know if we ever actually talked about, did you just send me, Johnny actually invited me to like a little queer like surf get together over the summer, right?
It seems like Benny's been around for at least a year, right? I mean,
Or has it?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
It's fresh, right?
Oh, okay. That's why I haven't heard
Benny's
of you
is
all before.
very fresh. Yeah. Sorry, I just like went into a whole huge like backstory.
No,
but
it's okay. I mean, from what I'm
we're
hearing,
we're getting to Benny's.
Quickly, your father surfs too, doesn't he? Or did he?
Boogie boards.
Boogie board. All right. Because I read somewhere that he had surfed or had experience in ID.
He grew up in Long Island and was
Robert Moses, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So he has like a lot of experience like in the water. And so that has always been like a big thing in my family, to be in the ocean,
nice.
surfing. So this idea is going on. Stuff is happening. And I definitely was overwhelmed with like working all the time. But I think I just sat down and like knew I wanted my art to be, or not specifically my art, but like wanted art to be present in whatever it created, just because that's like my main life goal, to be an artist or whatnot. That's what I'm pursuing right now. And so before all this, I have this character named Benny, who's a black sheep, which just like works. Okay. And I was looking up surf terminology and also queer terminology to see if there's like any crossover in like a name that I could come up with for like a club or like something. And I came across Benny as a surf term, which means someone who isn't a local. And like, I don't know how, but that just
going way back, by the way.
It just worked perfectly. Like someone who's not a local, and then my character, whose name is Benny, is a black sheep. So
nice.
And that's what I think like Benny's is. It's kind of like reclaiming it, for queer people and people of color who are just not locals, who aren't locals in like current surf media and representation and etc. So I like, that's what Benny's is. We are the black sheep.
And then so you met each other at the paddle out, and then so you began to plan this, and then I guess it started with a meetup, and you put the call out there, and then now people have joined, and it sounds like people are now, it's like a really beautiful collective of folks who are now have friends to go off and do their own surf, outings together, and it's just a beautiful way for people to connect. Johnny, I wanted to find out how you got connected to Surfer Magazine. There's a beautiful article featuring queer communities or queer representation in surf culture, and they talk about kind of like the toxic masculinity in the culture, and folks who've been out, and you're in the article with like Tyler Wright and all these amazing surfers. How did you get connected to that? And I want to read a quote from it because there's a beautiful quote that you have in there. But how did you get connected to them?
So that's actually really, it's a pretty funny like small world thing. So I'm from San Diego originally. I work out here at this like arts newspaper, and that's sort of, I'm in like the arts.
Are you at the Brooklyn Rail by any chance?
Yeah,
okay,
I'm at
great.
the Brooklyn Rail.
That was once published in there. Great publication. Way. Yeah, a long time ago.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look you up. I'm gonna look you up after this. But so I was visiting my parents. And there's like one gallery that I know, or actually it was a clothing store before. Guy Edwin's like super nice, formerly Gym Standard, now Swish Projects. I just went down to say hey to Edwin and like just say what's up. And he had the show up with works by this artist Stephen Milner, and it was dealing with surf culture. And I don't know, Stephen's also in the article. Basically, I reviewed Stephen's show. It was like I don't have like a really strong art history background, so I was like, yo, this is a show I can talk about, like surf culture. I got that, like queer stuff. Hell yeah. So I wrote like probably the only good art review that I've ever written, and Stephen and published it in the Rail, and whatever. It's like Stephen just said hello and said thank you. And we kind of connected on Instagram, and we were sort of just chatting. Like, I think we have a lot of similar experiences being kind of queer surfers in San Diego. We're also both white, and I often get read as a man. So we have very similar kind of like, there's a certain invisibility, I think, if you're white and you look like a man in surfing. And so, you know, we both had this kind of like shared experience, and just ended up chatting a lot over the next year. And Steven and Todd, I guess, San Diego surfers kind of know each other. And yeah, that's how I got connected with Surfer, kind of through that, through the art side of things. So
now comparing, I guess it's in San Diego, compared to the surf lineup there, and then coming to New York, did it feel different? Did it feel more, you felt more like at home, or in terms of the community and the diversity? What was that like, making that transition from San Diego, a surf bastion like San Diego, to New York?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I'd done some surfing on the East Coast, but the Rockaways is really special. Mm-hmm. I really thought that I was like done with surfing when I left San Diego. Really? I was like ready to leave that part of my life behind, because I graduated college, and I was finally like thinking for myself for the first time in my life. And I was like kind of committed to being myself and exploring like who I am and my gender identity, and kind of like really jumping into that. And I was like, there's no way that there's room in surfing for that. But of course, you don't ever go anywhere without a surfboard if you're a surfer. So I went. So,
you weren't really trying to give it up,
but also like not ready to jump ship yet. But yeah, you both know, people who listen to this probably know, like the Rockaways is like no other lineup in the that I've ever been in. Like it is so diverse, and for the most part, so friendly, and like just the vibes are really. They're good. Nobody is, for the most part. I mean, we've definitely like, yeah, there are the people who like vibe, but like for the most part, like no one's like paddling around you or trying to like push you into the jetty, like so they can get their set wave. Like everyone's just like chilling.
Wow. Well, paddle battle anyone,
I think those forces have been drowned out, honestly.
We do have finite resources, so there is a little bit of a dog eat dog kind of mentality sometimes. But for the most part, yeah, Rockaways, it's really unusual. I've traveled all over to surf, and you rarely see the diversity. You rarely see that as many smiles, I would say. And that, I think, has a lot to do with partially because New York is a very transient city where a lot of people come and go. You'll have someone in the lineup for like 3-4 years, and then you won't see them again, and there'll be someone new. And so, one, you don't have as many hardcore, kind of grumpy locals, maybe. And the ones that are there, I think, realize how special it is and realize how unique and how awesome it is. Like, that's the other thing is you go in a lineup here in Rockaway, you could be talking to a plumber or a finance person or an artist, and you don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah,
and it's always so delightful when you go in and you're like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm so-and-so. And you realize, oh my God, I've been following this person's work or whatever. And you're just like, holy moly. So I think there is that element there that keeps us all honest, actually. You don't want to piss off the wrong person either. So I don't know. I think that definitely helps add to it.
Yeah.
For
totally.
sure.
It's also maybe the only like surf city in the country with like anything close to equitable access because of
the subway,
the public transit, and also kind of a lot of people live in the Rockaways, but also a lot of people come in from the city. And so kind of everyone's like from all over.
Plus the housing hasn't gone too crazy out of control yet out there. So a lot of people can afford to still live out there. And we have public housing there, which is really unique because there's not a lot of beaches around the world even that have public housing on the beach, which helps, I think, keep that diversity. Otherwise, a lot of people would eventually be moved out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop the conversation there.
No, I mean, I think there's greater
absolutely
like
right.